She lost her husband. Then a gray tabby kitten followed her home and never left. Her name was Diane. She was 66 years old, and for 38 years, her husband Robert had been the one who filled the quiet spaces of her days, without either of them ever having to try, the kind of steady presence you stop noticing until it's gone. He died in March, quickly, from a heart attack in the garden he had tended every summer for as long as Diane could remember. One moment, he was pruning the roses, whistling something she could never quite place. The next, he was gone. The house felt enormous after that. Diane found herself avoiding entire rooms, the garage where his tools still hung in their exact places, the reading chair by the window where he used to fall asleep most evenings with a book open on his chest. She stopped touching things in a strange way. She realized one afternoon, folding laundry alone, that she couldn't remember the last time another living creature had reached for her. No hand on her shoulder, no head resting against her arm, just the particular silence of a house built for two people, now holding only one, every sound in it somehow louder than it used to be. Her daughter called every Sunday, the way she always had. "How are you doing, Mom?" she would ask. "I'm managing," Diane always answered, which was true in the way that surviving is technically a form of managing. 6 weeks after the funeral, on a gray afternoon in late April, Diane heard a thin, persistent meowing coming from the hedge along her driveway. She found him crouched low in the leaves, a small gray tabby kitten, barely old enough to be away from a mother who was nowhere in sight. He was thin, his fur matted with dirt, and he looked up at her with wide, uncertain eyes that seemed to ask a question she didn't have an answer to either, both of them equally unsure what came next. Diane had never particularly liked cats. Robert had been allergic, mildly, enough that the subject had simply never come up in 38 years of marriage, one of those small, unspoken agreements couples make without ever discussing them. She crouched down slowly, the way you might approach anything fragile, and held out her hand. The kitten hesitated, then pressed his small head into her palm. Something in Diane's chest, some door that had been closed for 6 weeks, opened just slightly. She carried him inside, wrapped in her cardigan, uncertain what she was even doing, and set him down gently on the kitchen floor while she searched through cupboards for something, anything, that a kitten might possibly eat. He ate like he hadn't eaten in days. Then he climbed directly into her lap and fell asleep there, one small paw resting against her hand, as though he had simply decided, without any discussion, that this was where he belonged now. Diane sat perfectly still for nearly an hour, afraid to disturb him, feeling the small, steady weight of him against her legs, warm in a way she hadn't realized she'd been missing. It was the first time in 6 weeks that anything had touched her gently. If part of you understands what it means to suddenly ache for the simplest kind of contact after losing someone, stay with us, because what this kitten gave Diane in the months that followed was something she hadn't realized she was starving for. Grief can make a person forget what warmth actually feels like, and this small gray kitten, without meaning to, reminded her all over again. She named him Ash, for the soft gray of his coat, the color of embers after a fire has mostly burned down, but not entirely out. The vet guessed he was about 7 weeks old, healthy enough despite his rough start, likely separated too early from a litter somewhere in the neighborhood. Diane didn't mind not knowing where he came from. She was simply grateful he had found her hedge on that particular gray afternoon when he did, as though timing itself had decided to intervene. The weeks that followed reshaped her rhythm of days entirely. Ash slept curled against her side each night, something Robert's old spot in the bed had gone months without. He followed her from room to room, chirping at her the way kittens do, demanding attention in a way that made her laugh out loud, alone in the house for the first time since the funeral, the sound of it startling her a little. Her daughter noticed the change during a visit in June. "You sound different," she said, watching Diane scoop Ash up mid-sentence without even pausing. "I forgot what it felt like to be needed by something," Diane admitted, surprising herself with the honesty of it. By July, Ash had grown considerably, gangly and long-legged in the way kittens are before they settle into their full-grown shape. He developed a habit of sitting in Robert's old reading chair by the window each evening, curling into the exact spot where a book might once have rested. Diane cried the first time she noticed that detail, not from sadness alone, but from something more complicated, watching warmth return to a chair that had sat empty and cold for months. One evening in late summer, Diane sat in the garden Robert had once tended so carefully, finally strong enough to spend time there again without her chest tightening at every rosebush. Ash climbed into her lap uninvited, settled his growing weight against her chest, and simply stayed there while she talked quietly to no one in particular, the way she sometimes still did. He purred the entire time, a steady, rumbling sound that seemed to fill the garden the way Robert's presence once had, low and constant beneath everything else. The months that followed brought slow, steady healing. Ash learned every room in the house, every windowsill worth watching from, every hour Diane was likely to be found in the kitchen. He met her at the door each evening when her car pulled into the driveway, sitting upright and watchful, the way certain animals somehow learn to wait. Diane, in turn, learned that grief doesn't disappear because something good enters your life. It simply learns to share the space beside it. She still missed Robert every single day, still spoke to him sometimes in the garden, but now there was also a warm gray weight at the foot of her bed each night and a set of watchful green eyes that seemed to understand exactly what her Sundays had once meant. People sometimes ask Diane where she found such a devoted cat. She always gives the same soft answer. "I didn't find him. He found me. In a hedge, on the exact afternoon I had forgotten what gentle touch felt like. I think we were both looking for a reason to be touched again." Some cats arrive from breeders with careful records and pedigrees. Some simply appear in a hedge on an ordinary afternoon as if they already sensed exactly where they were needed most. If you have ever lost someone and found yourself aching for the simplest kind of contact, this story is a gentle reminder that comfort sometimes arrives on four small paws, asking for nothing but a place to rest. Ash is 4 years old now. He still sleeps in Robert's old reading chair every single evening, still meets Diane at the door when her car turns into the driveway, and Diane says that some nights, feeling his steady weight against her side, she finally understands that love doesn't disappear when someone leaves. It simply finds a smaller, softer way of staying close. So tell me honestly, do you think our animals somehow know when we need to be touched gently again? Or is it simply a kindness we choose to believe in? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story of a kitten who taught a widow how to be touched again stayed with you, wait until you meet Biscuit, an orange tabby who showed up on a woman's patio after her marriage ended and simply refused to leave. What he did for a woman named Rachel, one quiet morning at a time, is next.